Good evening. I'll try that one more time. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. Much better, much better. Now we're going to have to corral Ernie and get him over here, you know. Even though he is retired, I still have some control over him. Only for this last evening, right, Ernie? Hello, my name is Kay Atkins, and I'm the president of Ashland Community and Technical College. And I want to welcome you to this special evening in honor of Professor Ernie Tucker. Ernie, a Kentucky native, born in Louisville, Ernie earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Georgetown, received a master's degree at the University of Louisville, did postgraduate work at Purdue University and the University of Kentucky, taught in Louisville, the Louisville Public School, and served in the Navy. Then he came to teach at the college, and the rest is history, which of course is Ernie's favorite subject. Since 1968, he has used his passion for history to motivate thousands of students to learn about their own histories. He has explored the roots of Eastern Kentucky culture and shared his findings with thousands of people throughout the state. After more than 40 years of teaching at the college, he retired this last spring. And tonight, we commemorate the impact he has had on our college and our community. Ernie's impact on students has been so profound that they have nominated him many times for Excellence in Teaching Awards. One of those students who was a favorite of Ernie's was Anne Brown Perkins. Anne Brown Perkins attended ACC in the early 1970s and went on to graduate from the University of Kentucky. She is the owner, operator of Secondhand Rose Consignment Shops and a current member of ACTC Board of Directors. Since 1998, she has served as the Executive Director of Safety Harbor, a domestic violence shelter providing services in the Five Co area. She understands the value of education as she encourages women in the shelter to attend and start at ACTC. She also remembers having Ernie Tucker as an instructor. For a student view of Ernie's contributions, please welcome Anne Brown Perkins to the podium.
Thank you, Kay, and I'm really thrilled to be here today. And I'm thrilled to actually be in front of Ernie today. That's kind of that's a change of venue, I do believe. Well, as a young girl who just graduated from Holy Family and who attended class with 29 people for 12 years, coming to ACC in 1970 was an eye-opening experience. My father had been a student at ACC for almost 20 years because he was raising a family and working 6 days a week and had just come back from the war. He actually graduated from Marshall the same day I graduated from high school. He told me that ACC was a great place for me to start college so that I could get a job and save money so I could go on to school. I tell this story to lots of people because, especially in my business at Safe Harbor, going back to school is a key to self-sufficiency and success. My father, my husband Sam, and our second son Michael are all ACC alumni. We are 3 generations of our family who all had Ernie Tucker. So, I signed up for all the standard freshman classes, and history was one of my first semester agendas. Having had nuns and just a few men for teachers, meeting someone like Professor Ernie Tucker was quite an experience, as most of you who know him. Ernie brought to the table a wit and perspective that I had never experienced before. He made class interesting and thought-provoking. Ernie always had a quick smile and a laugh that made coming to class most enjoyable for me because I was a pretty hard nut to crack. We not only learned about history, but we learned a lot about ancient folklore and herbs that have become a lost art. Ernie was an eclectic teacher. He had lots of stories and made class interesting, which is always the mark of a good teacher. I was fortunate enough to be able to work my way through college as a waitress at McClure's restaurant. From there, I got to know Ernie personally. He was a regular who loved to meet and greet and regale all the waitresses and all the clients with all kinds of stories, tall and short. The bottom line was that Ernie was a great storyteller. Some were short and some were tall. That was Ernie's MO. He loved a good story, and that is the mark of his longevity and his efforts to make this college such a success over the years. A college is only as good as its faculty and staff. This college has had some of the best, and Ernie will be remembered as one of the best. All of us have had great teachers over our academic career. Many of us have never had the opportunity to acknowledge and thank those good teachers that made great impressions. This is my opportunity to say thank you, Professor Ernie Tucker, for sharing your knowledge, your friendship, and your personality to enhance our community, promote our wonderful college, and share your love of people with a smile and a great laugh. You have made a deep impression not only on me, but thousands of folks who have had and shared your talent. God bless you and happy trails.
Thank you, Ann. Some of our faculty and staff have arranged a musical tribute to Ernie. Singer Betty George Fry, Matt Onion, and Frank Salisbury will be accompanied on the piano by Dan Mahan. In this original presentation, he is the very model of a model day professor. Please welcome the colleague choir.
Things embarrassing about our predecessors.
He knows the queens of England and he knows the kings of France.
He knows the ones who lost their shirt and those who lost their pants.
Speaking of such leaders, he knows every single president.
He knows which ones were valuable and those that weren't worth a single cent.
He knows all of their budgets and the taxes they have badly spent.
He is a font of knowledge, and to that we must just all ascend.
He's very well acquainted with all matters deep political.
And with his students, he's instructive and he's never critical.
We wonder how he keeps from being so egotistical.
He teaches ancient history from the Chinese to the Greeks.
He searches through large dusty books. Who knows what pearls he seeks?
In everything he does, we all agree he is so clever, and he really is a model of a modern-day professor.
In everything he does, we all agree he is so clever, and he really is the model of a modern-day professor.
He understands the need we have to teach about the past.
He drives the lessons home in hopes that they will last.
He's patient with his scholars.
their lessons home and hopes that they will last.
He spreads the wisdom of the scribes and discards all bombastic fools. You'd say no better professor has ever taught at any school.
You'd say no better professor has ever taught at any school.
You'd say no better professor has ever taught at any school.
You'd say no better professor has ever taught at any school.
And after all the tireless work and knowledge to be spread,
He lays the body down at night within the Lincoln bed.
In everything he does, we all agree he is so clever, and he really is the model of a modern day professor.
In everything he does, we all agree he is so clever, and he really is the model of a modern day professor.
Thank you, colleagues, that entertaining presentation. By definition, a professor is a teacher. A good professor is one who helps students learn. A great professor is one who makes students want to learn. All of the recognitions Ernie has received over the years, perhaps the one he values the most is the University of Kentucky Great Teacher Award. He received that prestigious award in 1973, and the plaque is displayed outside in the lobby. Ernie, would you please come forward for a presentation?
I've had enough already. He is a very model of a modern Major General. Yes, you have
Now, Ernie, you know we can't get you the plaque outside.
I know.
But this plaque has been reproduced for you because we want this to be an example for all of the students that you've taught, but also you set a wonderful example for our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you. What kind of real professor would wear a hat in class? Really?
Will you please stay with me
I
on
will.
stage? Ernie has had an impact not only on students in our college, but he has also had a great impact in our community. Tonight, Ashland City Commissioner Marty Goot is here to make a special presentation. He is an Ashland native who was elected in his 4th term on the council last week. He attended ACC in the 70s and went on to work at AK Steel. His father played tennis with Ernie, and he's heard all about Ernie for several years. Please welcome Honorable Commissioner Marty Goot to the podium.
Ernie, this evening I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize you on behalf of the City Commission and Mayor Chuck Charles by presenting you this proclamation. Whereas Ernie Tucker received a master's degree in history from the University of Louisville and received a PhD in history from the University of Kentucky, and whereas he is a former Navy veteran, a former public school teacher, and for many years taught American and European history at Ashland Community College, now known as Ashland Community and Technical College, ACTC. He is an author, speaker, researcher, and historian. And whereas Ernie, his distinguished teaching career gathered him an award for great teacher from the University of Kentucky Alumni Association, and throughout his career he received various other awards as well as for his outstanding teaching ability. And whereas he is to be commended for his lifelong dedication to teaching, inspiring his students, and mentoring them toward achieving their own career goals. And whereas Ernie retired from ACTC spring 2014, and the City of Ashland wishes him a well-deserved, fulfilling, and happy retirement. Now therefore, Chuck D. Charles, Mayor of the City of Ashland, Kentucky, and the City Commission do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 15th, 2014 as Ernie Tucker Day. I would like to also present you with the key to the city.
We have to build a new wall to the house, I think. Thank you so much. Thank you for this. How nice.
Congratulations, Ernie, on your award, and thank you, Commissioner Goot, for representing the City of Ashland tonight. Ernie Tucker has long made an impact on turning history into stories that encourage students and the learning process. His lectures have the reputation of being entertaining as well as informative, with humor that lightens the deepest subject. For his last lecture, please welcome Professor Ernie Tucker.
Thank you so much, and thank the city, and thank you, Kay. I mean, were the performers wonderful? They're just terrific. And Danny is so talented. He's also a historian too. He's a fellow historian at the college with me. Now I don't know how this talk is going to go, and I can't last too long because we've got things downstairs too, as you know. And I hope to see everybody down there, and I hope we will turn what goes on downstairs into a kind of family reunion for all of, especially those of you who are my students. You're all my friends, of course. You probably saw Sandy and me and Bob Evans occasionally, I don't know. I actually met Sandy at Frisch's, but Frisch's is gone now, so we had to move to another venue. It's not often. I mean, I'm about to cry. I've been emotional ever since this thing was planned. Some of you know I have a sizable ego. To play good tennis, you gotta have a little ego. Well, I have probably more than just a little ego. But I had nothing to do with this. Kay got this together with other people on staff, and I'm not going to mention names because I'll forget somebody, but they have done just a spectacular job. And if you haven't been online to see what they've done, and they sent things to my alma mater, Georgetown College, and we looked online today, and there it came up, another big article about Professor Tucker retiring in Ashland. I mean, it's just been terrific stuff. My family is here. I won't mention all their names. We got them. Some of them we got out of the Boyd County lockup, and a few of them we got out of the home. We got to get this over early. They're going to be closing the gate shortly. But it's not often that a person presides at his own funeral. I feel like we've even had the slideshow that you get at your funeral. And I thought about getting the little funeral parlor fans and pass them out so we can make sure. But it is so nice to be alive and well, and to be here to preside at my own passing. You don't often get to do that. I think Mark Twain had some characters in his books that showed up unexpectedly, supposedly dead. They showed up at their own funerals. I feel a little like that tonight. Someone asked me, why did you retire? I've been here 46 years. I've taught since 1950. 58 as a public school teacher and as a graduate assistant at the University of Kentucky. I don't know whether you can figure that out, but that's probably something like a long time. The college is 75, 76 years old. I've been here all but 31 years of that. I'm bragging a little bit, do you mind? And I think I've been here longer than any employee. In fact, I've been here longer than any of the buildings. To say nothing of the employees. I'm the oldest. There are trees around here I planted or saw grow from seedlings. So I have been here a long time. I'm still playing tennis with people. Some of you are here tonight who are still trying to beat me, but they haven't succeeded yet. And I'm feeling pretty good, I must tell you. Another reason I decided to retire is because every time Sandy, everybody knows poor Sandy. Half the tri-state, I've told this a number of times, think Sandy's first name is Poor. Because every time they see this wonderful woman with me, they say, poor Sandy. And she has at least 72 or 3 versions of what is a nice girl like you doing with this guy. In fact, we were coming down Winchester Avenue. Is this true story, Sandy? Coming down Winchester Avenue, probably last year, somebody at the stoplight, somebody rolled down the window and gave her number 73, right there on the spot. So, how shall I say it? Every time we walk down through the mall or someplace, somebody comes up to me and says, "Are you retired?" Now, I can read faces. They mean, "I thought you were dead." I can tell you exactly what they mean. And I'll tell you another thing. I've been around long enough in public school when we actually had blackboards and chalk. Well, I don't see that around anymore. In fact, in my classes, we don't have anything except computers these days. And I learned to use them. If I was going into the 21st century, I knew I had to, and still be a teacher. I learned how to use them about the turn of the century. And my classes have been using them now for that time, and they've taught me a lot about how to use them too. But I knew we use markers. They're like magic markers on the board now. This is a true story. I wouldn't lie to you. I had 17 magic markers. They tend to end up. They're like coat hangers in the closet. They reproduce in the of your desk. Every one of my magic markers ran out of ink at the same time. That means it's time to retire. Did you see the slideshow? It's wonderful. People in this office over here did that. It was spectacular. I do appreciate everything somebody's done. But you saw this picture. Now, you can't see it here, but I'll just tell you what it is. And you saw a picture of a church. This picture is a picture of... He was a Baptist preacher. We lived in I don't like to call it a slum, but it was very low income, shall we say. And he's right back here. He was a wonderful human being. That was his church in downtown Louisville, Preston and Chestnut in downtown Louisville. Some of you may know about that. He was such a terrific man. But my mother said that every time he would show up at Vacation Bible School, this is a Vacation Bible School in this kind of semi-slum church. Look at them. Look how many people are there. I assure you he knew every one of them by name. And the teachers are there. And my mother used to say, can you hear me? This is on. Yeah. My mother used to say, when he would show up at Vacation Bible School in the morning with the teachers, he would say, "Good morning, students," and they would say, "Good morning, Brother Tucker," and all the other teachers. I thought that was so nice, that for the last number of years, I don't know how many of you have been in my class when we did that? All right, some of you here, we're going to do it right now, and this better be good, or we're going to be here a very long time. So I'm going to say, "Good evening, students," and you're going to say, "Good evening, Professor Tucker," or "Good evening, Mr. Tucker" is fine. If you want to call me Brother Tucker, if you want to call me the Venerable Brother Tucker, I want to hear the answer. This is how we begin my classes always, depending on the time of day. Good evening, students. Good evening. I'm going to quit right now. No, I'm not quitting. That is very good. Thank you. When I was cleaning out my office, I went in my office sometimes. Some of you know that I collect tools, implements, and devices that were used in Eastern Kentucky. I do have a huge collection. One time I decided to count. I had in a 10 by 11 office 350 different items. I decided not to count anymore. But I have this wonderful note here, written by someone who is very close to me, because I went through every one of my 1,500 or so manila folders in my 3 4-drawer cabinets. Most of it I didn't. Most of it Mr. Modern Ernie Tucker can find in 2 minutes on my handheld brain, as every student can now. But I wanted to go through every one of those. I threw out 1,000. I wanted to go through every one of them just to make sure there wasn't something I was throwing out that was valuable to me or valuable to history. And in that collection, I found a wonderful note. Here it is, written by a 12-year-old daughter of mine. And she had it right. She's here now, right over here. She's a little older than 12 years old. But this lovely girl wrote this note to a program on television that you won't remember because it didn't last very long, but the program was called You Asked For It. How many remember that? Some of you do. Yeah, the geezers remember it. You've just seen them raise their hands. I'm going to read that to you. It's too good because she had it. This is Alice Tucker, and I'm age 12. She's older than that now. I've been wondering how many people forget what their culture is all about. Their old tools, their old remedies, their old medicines, the tools that built America. Pretty good for a 12-year-old, huh? Well, my dad didn't. For approximately the past 15 years, I think this was 1983, Alice. He has been collecting old tools, studying old medicines and remedies, and has written a book about it. He's a professor of history at Ashland Community College, that's what we called it then, in Ashland, Kentucky. His office is so packed full of old tools, there's only a trail leading back to his desk. Is that good? You were right, Al, it didn't change. Some people think of this stuff as old junk, but not my dad. He thinks of this stuff as pastime treasures. It would be very interesting if you would take your You Asked For It crew to my dad's office at ACC. Give Alice a hand. Is that good? I'm so proud of my children, as you can tell. My son is here too with Virgie and Samantha, and Samantha thinks she's my granddaughter. She's not. I don't care what she says. I would love to have her for a granddaughter, but she's not. And my son is a spectacular carpenter. If you need one, call me. We'll put him on. He's really good. I'm just absolutely astonished every time I see what he does and how he does it, how quickly he does it, and what skill he does it with. My mother was bright. You saw a picture of her up here. You probably didn't know she was my mother. Religious, funny, and very corny. I am very corny. And my family will tell you that. But I also think I'm funny because everybody in my family thinks he or she is funny. It's a family tradition. And we used to vie with each other about who was the funnier, and we still do. You should go out to dinner with us one time. You will pay. She was also a storyteller, surprisingly, from Virginia. You couldn't believe her stories, but they were always funny and they were always wonderful. You couldn't believe the preacher's wife's stories. Something's wrong with that. Do you know what lining the music is in church? Some of you may remember that. You used to out in the country, occasionally you still do, small churches who couldn't afford hymnals, the preacher or someone would get up and would give a few lines. The congregation would sing, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Amazing Grace, how... And they would sing. I once was lost, but now I'm found, but blind, but now I see. I once was lost, and they would sing. Well, she said, the preacher showed up one time, who was probably as blind as I am without my glasses, and he wanted to announce that he'd lost his spectacles. At home, left them at home. According to Mother, her story, the preacher got up and said, lining, he said, my eyes are dim, I cannot see, I did not bring my specs. No, the congregation sang, my eyes are dim, I cannot see, I did not bring my specs. He said, I did not mean this as a hymn, I only meant my eyes. I did not mean this as a hymn, I only meant my eyes were dim. My dad, the preacher, do you see the kind of heritage I come out of? The asylum is next, I think. My dad, the preacher, was the nicest man you would ever meet, and these people up here, most of them have met him. He was a Baptist preacher. We never had much money. Somehow we all graduated from college. My brother, PhDs and all of that. I mean, it's a pretty good story for people who didn't have any money. But that's the story of Ashland Community and Technical College, and has been ever since I got here. We take people, often, who have nothing, who come out of nowhere, and we nurture them, and they come out of here, and they are shining examples of what human beings ought to be. I always tell them when they're in my class, you're nice enough, you're nice, and they are our students. But if you stick with us here at this college, you will be a person that you never thought you could be. And they do. He would walk about half a mile to the bus. We couldn't afford a car most of the time we were growing up in Louisville. He would know everybody on the sides, people were on their porches. He would know everybody walking in the street. He would know he'd get on the bus or streetcar. He would know everybody on the streetcar, including the black people who sat on the back of the bus. And they knew him, including the black people who sat on the back of the bus. So if the Tucker boys and all of us seem a little gregarious, we come by that naturally too. He taught us by example. He didn't tell us much. One of my favorite little examples of my dad was something like this. He would say, Ernie, I can't speak for my siblings, I don't know. But he would say to me, and I think to them, Ernie, do you know who this person was? And I would say, no. And he would say, you will someday. Now teachers, a lot of you in here, we often tell students too much. Dad didn't tell us anything. But I can tell you, I'm not sure about my siblings, it wasn't someday that I found out about that, and this was long before Google was even thought of. I found that day, almost invariably, or I asked someone who knew the answer. What a great teacher. He's not only a fine preacher, he's a great teacher, and a great example to all of us. One time, my father, it was a miserable day. And I was just a young teenager. A miserable day there at 3212 Marion Court in Louisville, Kentucky. It was raining, a drizzle, it was dark, it was nasty. And Dad said, let's go out in the backyard. I said, Dad, I'm a preteen. Dad, I said, it's raining out, it's miserable. I don't want. He said, oh no, put your coat on, get the umbrella, let's go out there. So he took me to the far corner of this little urban yard, not big at all, and there was a leaf there. There was a leaf, a pointed leaf like that. It's raining, drizzle, awful. And he went over to that leaf and he pointed to a drop of rain that was about to fall off. I can hardly tell this story. And he said, isn't that beautiful? Do you have a father like that? Isn't that beautiful? And it was beautiful. And people ask me, why is it that you seem to know everything that's growing everywhere? Every tree on this property, Kay can testify, I know. I know those trees even though there are no leaves on them. Why? I'm not sure. But I thought that was not only beautiful, but that drop of rain was not only beautiful, but everything in nature was beautiful. How did I get into folk medicine in Eastern Kentucky? One reason was it was so interesting. The other reason was there were plants involved by the hundreds. I wanted to know the names of all of those plants and to be able to identify them out there. When I was very young in West Louisville, there was a little grocery, and I'm guessing my siblings would want to jump up and say, no, it was longer than that, it was shorter than that. I think it was about a half a mile away, maybe less. A little grocery. And my mother gave me a list. I was preteen, young. I was probably grade school. And I remember I went to the grocery, and there were all kinds of things on that list that I recognized. There was the usual bread, eggs. There was milk and beans in a can and soup. And I thought I knew every item on the list. But I didn't know anything at all about women or girls. I still don't know a lot. Wink, wink. The only thing I knew was you could kiss your mother anytime you wanted to. But if you kissed anybody else, you had to ask permission. I knew that. On that list was sanitary napkins. I thought I knew everything on the list. If you don't know what that is, don't ask me, ask Sandy. Well, I thought we were going on a picnic. Sandy, I got the cleanest napkins I could find. They all look pretty clean. I got the cleanest napkins I could find. Now, come on, that's pretty good. Now, let me hear it. And see, I can say things like that now because Kay came fire me. I thought, well, anyway, all the napkins in that little store look pretty clean to me. But when I got home with paper napkins, my parents and my older brothers, some of them were sitting right up here, could not contain their laughter. They don't remember that, but the youngest son in the family does, with a lot of humor. I finally moved on to junior high school. That's what we called it then. Not middle school, junior high school. I have to tell you, public school was not always fun for me. I wasn't great at it. A lot of it was sort of like prison. They never seemed to appeal to what talents I had to develop. Unlike what we do here at the college, I think we really, really appeal to most students and the individual talents they have. Most of us do that, and certainly all of us try to do it. On top of that, I got stuck with a very tough teacher in 9th grade algebra at Barrett Junior High School. I was not good at algebra. My brother Bill here, of course, who looks like me, has a PhD in chemistry, for God's sakes. I want to run him out every time I say I was not all that good in algebra, because, of course, he had to be to do that. Her name was Mrs. Keller, a very large, imposing woman. Of course, all of us called her Killer Keller. I had a friend. Now, every time I mention friend in what I'm going to say tonight, it's always in quotation marks, My friends are strange people. I have some here, I have some good friends here now. I would put their names in quotation marks too when I say my friend. I had a friend who even in the 9th grade already was a man. He had facial hair, muscles that I, a pencil-legged kid, could only admire. And even though we were, in quotation marks, friends, he could throw a mean punch at my arm on the playground at lunch just for fun, of course. And I think it really was. He wasn't a bully. One day after lunch, I wrote him a note in class. Did you ever do that? Don't do it. In which I threatened to whip his derriere. I used a much more familiar term, but hey, I'm not going to use that here. Relax. I made the mistake of passing it back along my row, hoping it would reach my friend at the rear of the room. It didn't. At this point, you know who your friends are. I found I had none in row 1. A real friend, I reckon, would swallow that, chew it up and swallow it. They'd have to pump his or her stomach to get it. No, it didn't happen. The girl who was the last to receive the note very meekly passed it on to Killer. And in front of the class, she so slowly unwrapped the note, unfolded the note, and read it silently. And then she pulled the preacher card on me. How many of you are preachers' kids? A lot of us, yeah. How many? She pulled a preacher card on me. Your father's a preacher, isn't he? I said, yes, ma'am. Would you like him to read this note? She asked. No, ma'am. And that, as far as I know, was the end of that story, but I suspect it was the talk of the teacher's lounge for weeks thereafter. Because why? I was a junior high school teacher 5 years of my life too. My father again. In due course, I graduated from high school by some miracle. DuPont Manual High School in Louisville. For better or worse, our parents never put any pressure on us to succeed. I can't speak for all of us, but not me. We never had any lectures like, if you don't do well in school, you're going straight to hell. We didn't get any of that. Maybe I should have had a little more pressure. I don't know. But there was no pressure. We were allowed to grow up as young people, as kids. My parents were both college graduates. They were both, in fact, seminary people. They were both trained to be missionaries to Africa. By any standards, they were well educated. They would be well educated today. Well, I was never a great student from grade school through senior high, nor did I like it very much. And after graduation from the DuPont Manual High School, I had every intention of going into becoming a neighborhood house painter because I had been painting houses all summer with a very nice man. And I thought, I'll just take that up too. That'll be my trade. It was the summer after high school, when I was working for this fellow, that my dad approached me, Mr. Soft Cell. Now, he may have been trying to keep me out of the draft. He never said so, and that doesn't sound like him, to be honest. But the draft was very heavy then. That's Korean War. Draft was very heavy then. Trying to get me a deferment, I don't know. He never said so. It doesn't sound like him. My dad said, what are your plans this fall? What do you plan to do? But very nice. My 3 brothers were all ready away to college. My sister Pat down here was heading off to Georgetown College in Kentucky. Packing to leave for school right then and there. This was about a week before school. Does that sound like any of you had attended Ashland Community College? You signed up on the last day? Yeah, that was me. Thank you. It's probably why I fit in here so well. I really know what so many of our students are going through, have gone through. Well, He said, why don't you sign up at the University of Louisville for a semester? And if that doesn't work out, that's fine. Your mother and I are okay with that. So I hurried off to U of L, enrolled at the last minute, and was on my way to a reasonably successful career in the academic world. My brother, I keep picking on my brother Bill, who taught for years at NC State, chemistry. I said, Bill, did you ever expect to be a teacher? He said, absolutely not. And I quoted you pretty closely, Bill. I never expected to be a teacher. My mother had been a teacher, and a good one, two-room schoolhouse. My dad had been a preacher. I knew darn good and well I wasn't going to be a preacher. Poverty was not my thing. And that's true for so many people who come to the college. They're coming here because they want to rise up, if possible, out of the situation economically that they're in. Well, I loved it, University of Louisville. And brother, at that time, they were trying to get rid of it. It was not a state school, it was a private school supported by Louisville, Kentucky. And they would tell you such things as, you see the two people that on either side of it? No, they're not going to be here next semester. And they weren't. A C was a good grade, let me tell you, at the University of Louisville. If you got a C, you were okay. Well, I loved it. School had never been like this before. To me in college, we were not in class every minute of every day, very unlike high school. I met students who were very different from any that I'd ever met before. I met professors who were knowledgeable, who were fascinating, who were eccentric. Quit looking at me that way. Who were eccentric, who seemed to know everything. And I encountered, but they were always interesting, eccentric or not. And I encountered ideas which were brand new to me. It was exciting. It was just what I needed, even though I wasn't very well prepared for the academic world or the rigors of a university situation. My father, Mr. Softcell, knew exactly how to deal with me. If he had dealt with me in any other way, I would still probably be painting houses in Louisville. Some of you might be happy about that. Shortly after college, I was drafted into the Navy, and I found myself not too long after heading out across the vast Pacific Ocean. If you haven't been on the Pacific Ocean, you have no idea about how vast an ocean is. We went all the way across the ocean on this tour of duty. We went to the east coast of Australia. We went up the Brisbane River to Brisbane, Australia. We ran into the pier there and what shall I say, splintered it. But the Aussies love Americans. They still do. They loved us. And the school kids were on the side of the Brisbane River waving at us in their little uniforms. It was just wonderful. And because I was a Baptist preacher's son, I was friends with the chaplain who was a Baptist, who was the chaplain of our 3-destroyer flotilla as we went up the Brisbane River. So when we got there, if we were Baptist, had that connection, the Baptist church there invited us to church and then invited us to a house afterwards. Very much like what we've done here in the United States with churches at night. And we went to this house, a private house, very, what shall we say, lower middle class, as Brisbane was. And Brisbane was a very lower middle class. They hadn't quite recovered from the war when I was in the Navy. And we sang, and one of the women, I thought she was pretty old, but was about 35 because I was awfully young. She played the piano and we sang, and I taught them my old Kentucky home, and we sang some more, and they taught me Waltzing Matilda, and we sang some more. It was just wonderful. And then after that was over, as we were leaving, she said, Ernie Tucker from Kentucky. I was introducing myself one time in North Carolina at something I went to there. I said, my name is Ernie Tucker. I'm from Kentucky. My name is not Ken Tucker. Okay. I thought that was pretty funny. So, she said, Ernie Tucker, what are you going to do when you get out of the Navy? I said, I have no idea. She said, you ought to be a teacher. That is the first time anybody ever said You want to be a teacher. Now, you teachers out there and you parents, that little thing you say to your students or to your children is the most important thing. Not all of that stuff you say, it's that little thing. And that was on my mind all the time while I was in the Far East, in Japan, Formosa, Hong Kong. That was on my mind. And by the time I got out of the Navy, I was only in 2 years. I was a draftee. By the time I got out of the Navy, that is what I had my mind set on. I'm going to tell you one more story, and then I'm going to read off some things that students have sent to me over the years that are just fun. My dog story. We'd only been in Ashland for a short time, and we thought it's time for me to get out and see the 33 or so counties out of the 120 in the state of Kentucky. See what it's like. Is it like what everybody says it is like? By the way. Now, unfortunately, there was a dog which showed up at our house that someone had obviously dropped who had too many dogs. But this dog, I must tell you, looked almost exactly like our dog, the dog we already had. A beautiful hound. Now my dog was how can you describe it? A worthless but loving creature. We finally took this dog to the veterinarian. Some of you have done that with cats, I know. I've done it all my life since I've been here, taking somebody's stray dog or cat to the vet, spend money I didn't have on having it wormed and all of those other things. Well, we did this to the dog, and then we set about to find a suitable owner if we could. After about a month, and this is in the summer, we want to make this trip, of diligent searching, we still had no volunteers, suitable or otherwise. I must tell you, our standards for adoption were beginning to drop. A friend, there's quotation marks, a friend of ours said, hearing of our plight offers hope. It seems that an Uncle John and wife in Elliott County love dogs, especially hounds, would gladly take the surplus off of our hands, and what's more, our friend, that's in quotation marks, our friend would see the dog duly delivered on his next visit. Another month passed. It's getting late in the summer. We still had the dog. Our friend was simply too busy for the 50-mile trip to Uncle John's in Elliott County. We were getting more desperate every day, and now near the end of the summer. We had to get rid of that dog quick. So we volunteered to begin our trip with a tour through Elliott County. Our friend was enthusiastic. Shouldn't we call ahead, we said? No, absolutely not, came the reply. They love dogs, and they're going to love you too. You're their kind of people. And the issue was seemingly settled. We set out for Elliott County with the two dogs in the back seat, confident that our cause was just, that we would do Uncle John and his wife a favor. Our dog troubles would soon be over. What could be a better present than a healthy hound to an Elliott County country boy who loved dogs and were going to love us too? My wife insisted that I procure some canine tranquilizers on the way. Since our dog, a female, seemed to be showing signs of coming into heat. We wanted to keep law and order in the back seat if possible. We dispensed the tranquilizers a full hour before the trip was to begin, hoping that they would thus be effective while we were on the road. However, the tranquilizers did not take effect until, after having missed Uncle John's by 4 or 5 miles, we wearily pulled onto the dirt road leading back to his farmhouse. My wife glanced into the back seat to check on the livestock and reported that all was not well. The tranquilizers had finally gone to effect. In fact, the dogs were playing goofy. One eye of the gift hound looked straight ahead. The other eye seemed to be searching the heavens. Our own dog had a stupid grin on his face. Come on, this is a pretty good one. Our own dog had a stupid grin on her face and was in a daze. A man, obviously Uncle John, came out on the front porch. I bounded from the car in my Julian Tucker vest, though a bit shaken by what I heard in the back seat. Introduced myself as a friend of his city relations and the bearer of a very special gift, a healthy ham. An incredibly loud and irritated female voice blasted out from the kitchen. Get that damn dog out of here! As if we didn't have no problem. We just played a guy to shoot 3 of them in the back of the barn, and we don't want no more dogs dumped here. Playing my last card, I opened the back door of the car to show Uncle John what I had brought. My own dog fell out of the ground. My first introduction to Eastern Kentucky, isn't this wonderful? I'm surprised I stayed to be perfectly honest all these years. Our own dog fell out of the ground, slid along on her stomach, and dug a small trench in the tall grass with her nose. The gift hound tumbled out on top of her and went running around the yard, dragging his hind legs. Them dogs are sick, cried Uncle I knew anything else I might say would be wasted breath, so I rounded up the hounds, put them back in the car, headed on down the road with the words of my friend, in quotation marks, still ringing in my ears. They'll love dogs, and they'll love you too. If I live to be 100, I'll never forget that vacation. It went literally, go ahead, say it, to the what? Oh, man. I lied. I've got another story too. I'll be too late. Well, this is one of my favorite stories. When I first came to Ashland Community College, we were scattered about. We had 2 buildings. One of them was an abandoned school, Bayless building, where Unity Square is located in back of Kroger, in front of Kroger, I guess you would say. Bayless building, which had been condemned for human occupation and was thus considered to be perfect for college students and their professors. The other building was an abandoned education building for Methodist Church that I think went broke and couldn't afford to keep it. So that was our administration building before we moved in all of these wonderful buildings we have. And I took my family, Kay, out to, what do we call it out there? East Park, Tech Drive. What do the students call it? Who is the president of the community college system? Dr. McCall. Dr. McCall. Students call it the Taj McCall. Did you know that? Well, it is like that. It's beautiful. Were you all impressed with our trip out there? The only person who was there was a security guy, and he was so nice to all of us. He took us around every place. And of course, I know the place. But when I first came to the college, we didn't have these slick facilities, believe me. And Uma Swanson, who was fresh off the boat from India, she wasn't really, but she wasn't far from it. She and I have been friends ever since, and we've insulted each other for the last, 45 years at least. In fact, if you go into her class, she looks and sounds exactly like Professor Tucker. She denies it. When I first came to the college, my office was in one of these classrooms. In fact, we had a desk in all the 4 corners of one of these classrooms. This old elementary school. One of our teachers was Dr. Richardson. He came from the old school of college professors. There was no nonsense there. No coddling. I could have learned a little from that man. He graded everything. He graded the notes that his students took in class. And they're all scared to death of it. Just like one of my students scared to death of me. Wink, wink. One day, it was a great day, I'm telling you. I just happened to glance into his class where he was lecturing in economics. And a large section of the ceiling fell. Wham! And pieces flew everywhere, and you could see the old-fashioned lab left over from this disaster. It looked like a war zone. Now, when you would expect any students in a normal class, mine would have run out the door and called for Dr. K. I can tell you what mine would have done. Not Dr. Richardson's. They did not move a muscle except to get the plaster out of the way, wipe the blood off their faces. They kept right on taking notes. And what's more, Dr. Richardson kept right on lecturing as if nothing had happened. Oh, gosh. Well, all of us in Eastern Kentucky are storytellers. If you don't like storytelling, if someone in Eastern Kentucky starts to tell a story, they're mainly men, but not totally. But mainly it's a man thing, and the women are supposed to listen. Is that true? Huh? Yeah. And the women are supposed to listen politely. We're all storytellers, but if your eyes go up to the top of your head like this, and you whisper something like, "Oh my God, another one," we will never repeat, never speak to you again. I learned early on what I have come to know, what I've come to call the Eastern Kentucky addendum, the addition. We don't like to compliment people in Eastern Kentucky. We will do anything to avoid it. We never say great, wonderful, outstanding. Except the younger people have this one word that I cannot stand. What is it? Help me. Awesome. But the rest of us don't. And the best we ever say is pretty good. You were pretty good. That's it. We never go farther than that. Not bad. It's the same thing. Not bad, pretty good. Well, where I come from in Louisville, if you said you were not bad, that means you weren't good. And if you said, someone said you're pretty good, that means you're pretty bad, right? Not here. Not here. So here's the Eastern Kentucky addendum. A lovely co-ed met me in the hall. I didn't know who she was. People ask me, why have I been at Ashland Community College for 46 years? Did I mention lovely co-eds? Did I mention that? It's not a bad place to be, is it? My college was lovely co-eds. Sandy knows I'm in love with Taylor Swift, so I might as well make that I might as well make that public while we're here right now. This lovely co-ed met me in the hall. I didn't know her right outside. As far as I know, I'd never seen her before in my life. She said, "Professor Tucker, you're not a bad," there it is, "you're not a bad-looking man." I thought, oh, this is nice. Lovely co-ed. "You're not a bad-looking man." I said, "Thank you." I spoke too soon. I said, "Thank you." She said, "For an old guy." That's the Eastern Kentucky addendum. You can't let it lie. I'm coming out, I spoke downtown, I don't know, somebody probably, I don't know, one of the service clubs. I came back, stopped at Bob Evans, not Bob Evans, I guess Frisch's, just to relax a little bit before I went back to school, drink a cup of coffee. A guy came in there, I hope he's not here tonight, a guy came in there who was at the meeting where I'd spoken. He said, "Professor Tucker, you were pretty good." I said, "Thank you." He said, "No, you were really good." I thought, what's going on here? I said, "Thank you." He said, "In fact, you were so much better than you were the first time you spoke to us." That's his idea of a compliment. That's the Eastern Kentucky addendum. I have friends who play tennis. And you can't tell about friends who play tennis because tennis players, especially singles players, are nasty people. They're very serious about this. I mean, my brother Bill has the best story about tennis players being, I hate to pick on you, Willie, but anyway, he's got the best story you've ever heard about he and his wife and this tennis playing partner who came to their house. Maybe he'll tell it to somebody if you ask him. He's a guy who looks like me. Give him a hat and some glasses. He looks just like me. So I have a friend, he said, Ernie Tucker, you are the best tennis player for your age in the state of Kentucky. I said, thank you. He said, the rest of them are dead. That's Eastern Kentucky and end up. Well, we could go on forever. I'm not going to, but I need to move on over here because I've got a few notes here from students. Sandy, poor Sandy. Poor Sandy, I can't go any place that somebody doesn't come up to us and have something nice to say. Last night, ate at a restaurant, a couple of people I had in there in class, in Kentucky history class a couple of years ago. It's unbelievable. I think Sandy's tired of hearing about it. I'm not. Here's a little note, written to me personally. During our lifetime, we meet oceans of people. Some only create a tiny ripple and are soon forgotten. Ernie, you were a tidal wave in my life. Now, if you're a teacher, you need to say things like that. Or write them themselves yourself and read them back. This is one of my favorites. You can't see this. This is a kid. This is a kid. I spoke to them about tools, implements, and devices in use in the past. You want to be tired? Go to one of these elementary schools and speak 12 to 12 different classes one morning. You college professors have got it easy. You want to be really tired, speak to 12 different classes. This is so wonderful. And the teacher, very wisely, is this a good idea? Had all the students in that class write me a letter. Is that a good written assignment? Is that a lot better than writing about what you did last summer? In my family, we didn't do anything. We just played and had a good time. That was good enough for us and good enough for my parents, too. Dear Mr. Tucker, you were great. This is elementary school kid. I would invite you back right this second, every day, all year. This is about as good as your note, Alice. There's a little addendum to this, except holidays. Is that good? Michael, my son Michael, over agrees. People have come to my class. It's not just me. By the way, you know, Ashland Community College, it's not just me who inspire people. I think I've inspired a few. It's people we've had ever since I've been here on faculty. If a teacher does not inspire students, the teacher is worthless. That's what teachers do. In my view, teachers are not supposed to tell everything up to everybody. They're supposed to tell them how to get to it, how to do it, and send them off after it. Like my dad did when he said, "You will someday." We don't have to tell them all those details. Do you even remember, do you even remember all the teachers you had in college? I don't. Or high school, or junior high, or elementary school. The only teacher I remember from elementary school was Miss Brown, and she taught us how to sing. Even guys like me who were scared to death to sing. She taught me how to sing solos, for God's sakes. And maybe why I'm up here and able to speak to you with some effect, I don't know. I wanted you to know my sister and I put together a history of Fallsburg. Now, in my classes, you always had to do some outside project. We've had a great deal of fun with that. Let me show you something, if I can get to it. Wanda Cassidy from Fallsburg, which is on the way to Louisville on Route 3, one of the most beautiful roads in the state of Kentucky. There it is. This is one of the most this is an outstanding area, Fallsburg, beautifully done. She, if I recall correctly, did this Fallsburg for her outside project and later on expanded it with her sister to this. Is that good? Is one here? She's not here. We should give her a hand. I hate to mention names, of course, because I'll miss somebody. These were given to me by Nicole Pramick. She's up here, I see, with her parents. She's taught here as an adjunct. She was my student. She had other nice things to say on that note, but she's written 3 books, and we've read them all, Sandy and I. They're quite well done. I'm so proud of her, and her parents are too. Thank you for sharing your love of history and warm insights with council students, including myself. I mean, it's great stuff. I'm almost through. Here's a guy. I had to practically take him out in the hall every day or so and beat him up. He was always late for class. Let's see, the thing I enjoyed most about from your class is that I felt engaged to learn in groups with people I'd never met before. I felt strange at the beginning of the semester. I really began to enjoy the company of my teammates. We do this team thing, and you've got to keep right on top of it if you do that, or it doesn't work. But we do that the first day of class, and I don't allow anybody to be on the team who knows somebody there, who knows somebody. No, is that your wife? No, she's not on your team. I want you to know at least 4 or 5 different people when you come to my class, because I know from experience, one of the best things about being in college is meeting new people you never knew before. He did. Let's see. Here's another one of my favorites. When I started my journey here at ACTC, I never expected to meet so many wonderful people as I have. There are lots of them here. I'm just one, maybe. It's been a difficult but rewarding journey from having all remedial classes. Okay, listen to this. From having all remedial classes my very first semester to receiving all A's the last semester. Is that neat? We nurture people. We bring them along. We had every member of your family, I think, didn't we? Yeah. They were all good students. We didn't have to work very hard with them. And I've always done crazy things. Like if we have extra credit, every student needs extra credit, would like to have it. I would appoint a guru of extra credit in every class because isn't that silly? Yeah. But the guru would keep track of the extra credit for that class because it varied from class to class, and I couldn't keep track of it, for God's sakes. She said, "You gave me confidence by making me your guru of extra credit." That little thing that I did affected her. And I always introduced, I remember her quite well. And I said, I want the meanest, nastiest person in this class to be my guru of extra credit this semester. And I knew she wasn't. Boy, this is too good. I don't mean to keep you all night, but it's too good. You gotta listen to this. I was always a wildflower. I was always a wildflower. I was always a wallflower. You showed me how to be a confident person. And she got through that. Who is that? By the way, I dropped all of this coming out of my car. I don't remember anything in it. I don't think I picked them up in the right order. Okay. She said, by the end of the semester, I'm going to write you a short story about how you have stunningly affected my life, my word. And I'm going to read that story to my children. Great stuff. They're all my favorites. Let's see. At the time I was young, ignorant, and struggling to find my identity. I went to college to escape the steel mill and the army, both of which my father wanted me to join. I had no idea what I was going to do as a vocation. My skills at the time were limited to dancing, carousing, and I really didn't do those very well. I enrolled in Professor Tucker's class like everybody else does. Yeah, that was certainly true. I must admit, you were on stage in the class, and the class was your paying customers. I can tell you really loved history, but the thing that really got me was that you wanted us to love it too. Not just history, but life. You were constantly prodding us to wake up and look around. I probably said something like, "Get off the front porch." You told me to grow up, enjoy life, and do something interesting. By the way, the names, but that person teaches here at the college. Do I need a hand for that? Come on. It's hard to get around. It's hard to get around. I assumed coming into this course that it would be another boring read the chapter, take a test, lecture, type class. I assumed it would be basically the same thing I've been doing for the past 2 years. I'll mention a college, Marshall. Can I do that? Thank you. My daughter graduated from Marshall, by the way, and here too. What I've discovered, well, let's see. By getting put on the teams of people I completely didn't know to do work for the class, I was forced to open up and become friends with some of my classmates. I've had people on these teams meet each other the next semester or after summer, and they're hugging each other in the hall. It's the wildest thing you've ever seen. I don't know what went on, but it's wild. At Marshall, I rarely ever did that. I completely kept to myself, not really caring what these people thought of me. I've discovered that I really can teach myself if I want to. And the one thing I dislike about the American education system, and I like most of it, is that we don't always teach students how to learn. That's another main job. Teach students how to learn and how much fun it is. I discovered that I really can teach myself if I want to. Life isn't all about books and tests, but more about what you can learn for yourself. Teachers or professors aren't here to make us learn. They're here to teach us how to learn. Couldn't say it better. Here's another one. You were an inspiration to me. And I do have a significant interest in you now, but it was totally absent in 1973. You are special and hilarious. She didn't say nuts, but special and hilarious and wonderful, and I pray you never change. I have designs on living a long time, sitting in a rocking chair with 67 or so grandkids at my knee, all of whom will, at some time, hear the story of the great Professor Tucker. That's embarrassing to me. You know how embarrassing that is to me with my little ego. Mostly successful single father. Hear that, Michael? Unknown accomplice in getting Granny, it's an older person, into college, provider of knowledge, awesome stories. It's wonderful stuff. And one more. I'm almost through. That's the preacher always says that the longest word in the English language is when the preacher says, I have one more word to say. I'm the same way. My father wanted me to be a preacher. I probably became one. For a period of several months, you joked in your class that you were training me as your replacement. Thanks for 8 years ago making me feel like I'm capable. By the way, that young man is my replacement here at the college. Give him a hand, will you? And finally, a woman in Pike County told me a story. Now, she was a good storyteller, but it's not usual for the women to be the storytellers. She was an excellent storyteller. You don't know about Pike County. It's the largest county, the most easternmost county in the state of Kentucky. It's very hilly, and if you go down there more than once, maybe the first time, someone who lives there is sure to tell you, if you flatten it out, it's bigger than Texas. She was good. She said, there was a man out in the country, a country boy, and he somehow got some money together. We're not rich in eastern Kentucky, most of us. Got some money together, decided to buy him a cow, go on into town. So he's walking down the gravel road, he's heading to town, he meets his neighbor who is at his gate to his place. His neighbor says, where are you going, what are you doing, what's up? He said, I got some money in my pocket, I'm going downtown, I'm going to buy me a cow. His neighbor said, what did you say? He said, I've got some money in my pocket, going downtown, going to buy me a cow. His neighbor said, that's not what you mean. Well, he's getting a little angry. He said, well, what do I mean? He said, you mean you've got some money in your pocket, you're going downtown to buy a cow, the Lord will it. He said, I'm going down to buy me a cow. So he went down the road around the bend into the woods. Some guys met him there, beat him half to death, stole his money. So here he comes back up, hardly able to walk, back up the gravel road. Lo and behold, his neighbor is still there at the gate. His neighbor said, my goodness, what happened? You're bleeding, your shirt's torn. He said, well, they met me down there around the bend, these guys. They beat me half to death. I'm bleeding. I can hardly walk. His neighbor said, what are you going to do now? He said, the Lord will, and I'm going home. I love country stories. And the Lord will, and I'm going home too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Let's give Ernie one more round of applause. Ernie has always believed in the power of education. And even now in retirement, he is helping the college prepare for the future generation for ACTC students. I'm pleased to announce that he is donating one of his classic cars, a red 1968 Triumph Spitfire, to the college foundation.
Maroon.
Maroon, I'm sorry, maroon.
I'm keeping the ribbon.
Oh, yeah. It's maroon, my correction. The car will be raffled off with proceeds going to the Build Smart campaign to renovate the main building on the College Drive campus. Tickets are $100 and only 249 tickets will be sold. Ticket sales begin this evening in the main lobby, so please stop by, look at the car, and buy a ticket. Ernie has also donated one of his hats to the campaign for a silent auction tonight, and it is on display in our student lounge. He's also signed it. Ernie is going to be going down to the reception, and I welcome everyone to go down there as well. Bob Evans, one of Ernie's famous favorite haunts, as well as Old Charlie's and the ACTC Culinary Arts Program, have donated food for our reception. Thank you for coming this evening, and I invite all of you to join Ernie and everyone at our reception downstairs. Thank you. Let's go to the student lounge for our reception.
I'm a good one to survive.